in our stores. These stores, and you'll see photos of them in a moment, you don't have the giant jars of cannabis that you might be thinking of as the dispensaries might have today. That's because that's illegal under Health Canada rules and regulations. They need to be secured in a vault. Anything that has a cracked excise tax stamp on it cannot be sold. Everything, as the chief mentioned, is very highly regulated and detailed from essentially its seed to its sale. So I think that's an important thing people need to understand. But it's also about engaging with our local communities to make sure that they understand what's being sold there and how it could be sold, and making sure that you have the things in place that you need. One of the things that we pride ourselves on is having double age gating. So whatever age you look at, it doesn't matter. If you do not have photo ID, government-issued photo ID, you cannot walk into one of our stores. We also then recheck your ID at point of sale. As I mentioned, we are operational already in Alberta and Saskatchewan. We have licenses in British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan. We will be applying for the up to 75 licenses that the Ontario government will ultimately allow for over the course of the coming years, however that rolls out. My client would like me to convey to you that they would like to ultimately come here to Waterloo. These are some of the folks that are on our management team. These are some of the best and brightest in retail, food, services. You'll also notice Nadia Vadavaz, who comes to us most recently from Holt Renfrew. The other person that is of interest on that list is Norm Inkster. Norm Inkster might be familiar to some of you. He's the former head of the RCMP and, Interpol. So he is literally the world's former top cop. They all bring different experiences to that, but it's also ensuring that not only is the retail experience, that the product is well regulated, but also that the community engagement and safety are part of the conversation front and center. So what does the store look like? Well, this is in fact a Fire and Flower store in Edmonton. As you can note, there's snow. It's like any other store, except for what you can't do is see into it. This is actually part of what's regulated through Health Canada. So it's not big, glitzy, big leafs that you might think being envisioned. That's what we're talking about here today. This is actually how we design the stores. As I said, you don't see giant jars of cannabis everywhere. They're in fact locked in a vault. It really is about ensuring that people have a safe space. They can come in and have a conversation, learn about the products, whether they're the CBD oils that people use in a variety of ways, sprays, or of course the more traditional versions. In some stores, there's even show people how to grow because the regulations allow for people to have plants in their own homes. We have a menu board because the products are changing so rapidly, but also to allow people from first-time users to connoisseurs, as we like to say, to really understand what it is that they're doing. And it really is about, as I said earlier, that public education component. Understand what do the various dosages mean, instead of just going on and saying, yes, I'll take that. What do those dosages mean? What can these products potentially do? And how might I use it in different formats? Again, those are inside store. But it really is about making sure we're talking about supporting our cities. When any of our general managers of a store, as part of their employment contract, come forward, they actually have to shake 500 hands in the community. It is to ensure that the community understands who they are, can talk to them about whatever the range of issues are, and really engaging. We also have a very robust program in terms of location that far and exceeds most requirements, and certainly will far and exceed the requirements of the Ontario government. We have some best-in-class partners. And with that, councillors, I will leave it here, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wright. Questions for the delegate? Councillor Vasic.
Thanks for your presentation. Can you go back to the supporting strong communities?
Yes.
Cities? Yeah. So one of the things that our Chief of Police has said in his presentation is that we need to have prevention, education, and awareness. And I see that your customer experience and customer education is really important. But I guess I'm a little bit curious about, is there, and what is the commitment from Fire and Flower and perhaps other retailers around prevention, education, and looking at those kind of root causes of drug use in the first place that might be not recreational only, but like more problematic perhaps. So is there a commitment to that, and what is it?
Absolutely. So one of the things that they currently engage in and continue to offer to municipalities is around a program they call Cannabis 101, which is really an education component, working with municipalities to provide information and to make sure that there's an understanding. We're certainly working with staff, working with the community, working with public health, working with police agencies, ensuring that there is that broader conversation. And really beyond certainly there is as I said, the THC value parts of it, but also all the other component pieces and product types, and really understanding what we're talking about, how they can use it safely, and should they choose to use this legal product. What is particularly important to my client and to myself is that people have access to a safe legal product in a way that ensures that they understand what the product they're getting is, what that experience can be, and how that product is made. Ensuring that we understand exactly what is in those products is paramount to public safety.
Councillor Freeman, Councillor Bonnegour.
Thanks. I guess maybe it was somewhere in there, but I wasn't totally hearing it. And maybe my question wasn't direct enough, which I guess is Fire and Flower, or do you have a plan, a corporate social responsibility plan, to invest resources in the kind of prevention and education that I think Chief Brian Larkin was talking about, which is really about youth resilience and youth,
Absolutely. The short answer is yes. Engaging in that conversation with municipality is part of our corporate responsibility. We want to ensure that this is an adult use product in all of its forms, and that's why we really engage in conversations with the community as well as at our store level.
Okay, Councillor Freeman, Councillor Bonnegour.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Jaworski. You outlined some of the pieces that are specific to Fire and Flower's delivery method. Can you help me to understand what aspects are regulated and what aspects are specific to Fire and Flower, meaning that it may or may not be Fire and Flower that gets the license to operate in Waterloo? So I'm trying to understand what aspects of your presentation would relate to any type of retailer.
Sure, absolutely, Councillor, and that's a great question. So I'm going to go back a couple of slides. So, for example, how a storefront can put signage up, how the windows cannot be, you can't see through a window. Those are all regulated. So every operator has to apply those same standards to their program. In Ontario, you cannot... They call it standalone retail, and for lack of a better way, it means that you can't have a coffee shop and a cannabis shop co-locating. So those are government regulated. Things like, as I mentioned, not having product open on the floor of the store, that's regulated through Health Canada as well. That you can't have, you can only have what they call sample jars. They're small jars. They are also regulated if they have, again, that cracked excise stamp. They cannot be sold. That is a standard practice for all of the legal operators across Canada. And then the safety and security measures, there are baseline safety and security measures, and then other retailers go above and beyond that.
I guess I'd like to know whether the aspect of education associated with sale of product that you've outlined here for this particular client, whether that's also regulated.
It's not regulated, but it is why you would have a bricks and mortar retail experience. And that's been the experience from legal operators in all licensed jurisdictions, that it really is about informing and educating consumers on what the different products are. So whether they are as robust I couldn't give you that 100% guarantee because that's not regulated through. But what it is why you would even have a bricks and mortar retail to begin with.
Councillor Boniger.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Jaworski. Thank you for your presentation, and I realize you represent just one chain, so you can't speak to the industry as a whole, but I'm wondering if you could speak to this. One of the concerns that I'm hearing from residents is the possibility of concentrations of multiple pot shops in a small area. So could you, as a company, could you perhaps give us an idea of how Flower and Fire... Oh, sorry, did I get that right?
You got it backwards,
Fire
but that's
and
okay.
Flower.
I'll answer to just about anything
So,
at this point.
yeah, how do you select a site, and does proximity to an existing site affect your decision?
That's a great question, and it does, and certainly it does for a number of the larger retailers when they're looking at. I can speak to my own client, but when they are looking at retail spaces, it is proximity to anything else that's even adjunct to the industry, making sure you're not directly next to or nearby one of your competitors, but also how do you ensure that you're farther afield than other sensitive uses? And yes, the province of Ontario has only deemed 150 from K to 12 and private, but we certainly go well beyond that and look at a number of sensitive uses beyond just the K to 12s, even K to 12 programming that might be in other types of community centers, that sort of thing. So we look at all of those things as part of our program, and most of the reputable folks will do that and look at what. Making sure that they're not positioning themselves in an area that is a sensitive use. Ultimately, you want people to feel comfortable in your stores for a number of reasons, but also so they want to feel comfortable going in and or coming back.
Councillor Bodley.
Through you, Mayor Jaworski. Given that the province of Ontario is going with a market-based approach, question that has been brought to me by some community members is that the cost of regulated cannabis is 50% or more higher than black market or illegal cannabis, and it's not going to have an impact because people are going to be driven to the lower cost alternative. So question about whether or not you have any market information that you can provide to us that's understand that's not sensitive or confidential in that regard, to tell us how things are working in provinces where retail shops are already up and running. And secondly, based on this picture, I mean, this is not what I think the vast majority of the community thinks of when they think of a cannabis shop. And I suspect that there may well be, I think you put it as non-reputable cannabis alternatives out there. Do you have any feedback for us from other provinces that gives us information from a market perspective as to how Fire and Flower is doing as compared to perhaps some of those less reputable shops?
So taking a step back, Councillor, keeping in mind that prohibition of cannabis only lifted on October 17th. So that is still sorting itself out, as is the supply situation with the licensed producers. So keeping in mind that only Canadian licensed producers can provide to any retail outlets and to government agencies as well. So those two things are making some of those, giving you those direct market comparisons a bit more challenging at this point, so you'll forgive me for that. But what we do know is a couple of things. People consume cannabis. People want to continue to consume cannabis. There are also a number of people who want to ensure that where they're getting it from is a safe, legal outlet. Now, some people will pay a premium for that, and I'm not naive to say that tomorrow or after April 1st, when Ontario rolls out their first tranche of retail outlets, that the black market will be gone. But where people really want to go is not to illegal dispensaries that you may or may not know what's in the product, but they want to have that experience to know what's in there, what those doses are. So will that be the same for everyone? No, but the vast majority of Ontarians want to have that outlet.
Okay, seeing no further questions, thank you.
Thank you very much, Council.
And we have one final delegate, Liang Yin, here to present. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to let me present my thinkings and concerns. In the city staff report about the prohibiting cannabis retail store, it lists 5 benefits. However, I don't feel they are very convincing, and I would like to go through them one by one, but quickly. I think the first 2 item benefits we are told that we can obtain is product safety and economical development. As we all know that cannabis can be purchased already online, and on one of the websites it says, order cannabis and get it in 2 hours. Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge. Here we can easily see a local retail store would not provide us a much safer option than the online store. Neither does the consumer need to go to any other municipality to get cannabis. Secondly, according to the most recent survey led by Statistics Canada, it says the average price of legal recreational pot was nearly 50% higher than the illicit market price. With such a big gap in mind, will the cannabis retail store really help eliminate the black market in a meaningful way? So we saw another uncertainty here. Next slide, please. Oh, thank you. Another benefit mentioned in the staff report is provincial funding. I did my own research. It's a little bit different from the one that in the staff report. I think the staff report gave us a minimum funding that we can obtain from the provincial government. In my own research and understanding, based on the size of our city, and the provincial funding would be only 100,000 if we opt in. I don't see a lot of help here. It just, I think, in my opinion, it's just better than nothing compared to the size of city we are. Another benefit mentioned in the report is job creation. I think this can hardly estimate as now because we don't have some real data. But in my opinion, we should instead encourage other types of business, such as high-tech financial services, etc. Waterloo should boast its intelligence, not cannabis retail stores. The last point mentioned in the report is harm reduction. I somewhat agree with the statement there. But however, this is because cannabis was previously illegal. Now it is legalized. So it is not defined as a crime anymore, and therefore disappoint from the equation to calculate the crime rate. So I don't think we really enjoy the reduction of the crime rate here. To conclude, I don't see those benefits mentioned in the city report are real or significant. However, in the other hand, we have 2 very famous universities in Waterloo. There are about 60,000 enrolled university students now, and about half of this is about half of our city population. And most of them are in their earlier 20s or younger. They are very vulnerable to the downside of cannabis impact. Please be also noted, the retail store can be located only 150 meters from the campus. I have 3 small children. As a father, I try my very best to help them grow healthy and both physically and mentally. I have similar feeling on our young students and believe cannabis shouldn't be too easily accessed by them. Instead, we should be more, opt-in, we should be more cautious and patient at this time. What I would like to see is to wait and see what's happening to other opt-in municipalities, and then we can make wiser decisions with real data by then. I don't see the necessity or urgency to opt in at this moment. So let's opt out for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yin. Questions for the delegate? Seeing none at this time, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, we had questions for staff from Councillor Veith.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Jaworski. Mr. Herzog's comments, this is where they come from. Does the city or the region or the cities in general get to decide where, for instance, LCBO stores go, besides, like, they're zoned for certain areas, right? So, but we can't control if an LCBO store, for instance, wants to locate in an appropriate zoned area, correct?
It is a similar framework. Our zoning bylaw does speak to, does get into that level of detail in terms of beer, wine, and liquor sales for some zoning categories. But there certainly isn't a commenting period the same way for those stores, not that I'm aware of anyways. But certainly there are zoning categories. In this case, for this particular use, municipal control has been restricted so that the city can't provide or create zoning categories that would distinguish cannabis retailing from other retail uses.
Right, so
Yeah.
that means that a cannabis store would have to be located in a retail area.
Yeah, in a zone that,
allows
retail.
retailing.
Yeah,
Right,
got it.
okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, with that, floor is now open for council for a motion or debate on this topic. Councillor Bonnegar.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming to speak with us today. It's a big decision to make as a city, and I want you all to know that we don't take it lightly. It does concern me that there is no provision to set specific rules about locations or to extend the proximity minimums. But for me, weighing against that is the promise of safer supply. And I think that is an essential piece. The black market, it wreaks havoc on people's lives. And if we're still only selling online and we don't have locations on the streets here in Waterloo, we run the risk that the black market will still thrive. The piece missing in all of this, and I agree with Chief Larkin here, is public education. I would very much like us to see a public education campaign directed at younger people in the community to let them know the impact that this could have on developing brains. But when we come down to it, this is not just about kids getting high.
I bet you're going to move this motion, right?
I am.
And somebody's going to second it for it? Councillor Veith. Okay.
Sorry. Yes, cannabis has many uses and many users. Safe access and having educated choices is going to be very important, and that is why I move that we support staff's motion.
Now we have moved and seconded. Further comments from council at this time? Councillor Veith, Councillor Hanmer.
Yeah, this is my comment. It goes back to the federal government brought this to us. Now the province is downloading this to us, and I kind of feel that, like the province usually does, they just mandate something and they say this is what we're going to do. They don't give municipalities the option to opt in or opt out, and I think it's kind of a cop out on the province, on the part of the province, to be putting municipalities and councils in this situation, rather than working with us to make it work and to make it, to go through with what they've mandated, with cannabis now being legal. So, and if people want it, they'll find a way to get it, right? So, and it's, to me, it's like, buying your alcohol or, getting your cigarettes. So, and I think over time it'll be normalized. So anyway, that's why I'm happy to support this. Well, happy in a kind of an odd kind of way to be supporting this motion. So,
having only one choice or the other, this is the side we're laying on. Councillor Hammer.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, I too am supportive of the comments that have been made regarding opting in. The regulatory component of it is really strong and important to me. Having safe product and also the opportunity for residents to be safe while they are consuming or choosing how they're going to be using cannabis, I think is important. The harm reduction components of it, I think there's a little bit more testing that has to be done there, but I do see the value in that. I like the idea that potentially the resources, financial resources, albeit small, that may be coming back into our area could be redirected, and I would hope that we would encourage that they get redirected into prevention aspects as well from an education standpoint. It isn't just the youth, as Councillor Bonagard has said, it's everyone who needs the education around prevention, so I too will be supporting this motion.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Any further comments from Council? Councillor Freeman.
Sorry. So I've struggled with this for a fair bit, and I attended all of the sessions that I could at the Association of Municipalities of Ontario that the chief spoke at as well. And I also have tried to find out more information related to opting in. And I think there was a few things that really stuck with me. And I too wanted to thank everyone that came today to provide your insight on this matter, because it's a difficult decision in many regards. But one of the things that really worries me is about normalization of the product. And in municipalities that opted out in the United States, essentially what happened was the black market really thrived. And in addition to thriving, they used it as a gateway drug and started tainting the product and getting people addicted to products that were a lot stronger. Heroin, cocaine, more fentanyl came into the market. And I really worry about that, and that users don't know whether an illegal product is tainted. And if they even want to experiment, at least if they have a bricks and mortar store, they know that it's regulated, and they can ask the questions instead of asking the internet the questions, because it's really concerning that you found a site that said get it delivered in 2 hours. We know that must be an illegal site, and if we think that students at the universities are not inundated with product delivery, we're kidding ourselves. And I appreciate your comments, Mr. Herzog, about getting in the car and driving high. But, you have to pick it up at Canada Post, and if you're that desperate for the hit, you're just going to take it and drive high then too. So I don't see a difference in terms of the delivery method on that. I think we could think of 100 ways to try to prevent people from choosing to use drugs, and none of them would be effective if they chose to use them, or if they choose to use them. And I just don't want. I want to see this product normalized so that people don't sell it to children on the streets anymore, or sell it to adults on the streets anymore. I want to see that stop. And I guess they probably had these same conversations at the time of Prohibition. And I'm hopeful that this is the right decision.
Thank you. See no further comments. I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is unanimous. I think a lot of things raised here today about the federal government, provincial government. At the end of the day, municipal governments are caught holding the bag and have one a binary vote, yes or no, to go with. I think we've taken a good approach here where we're taking a stand on the black market in favor of the free market. Not much of a choice, but it's a choice to be made. And then finally on our commenting, where the staff have recommended 9 different areas where we will comment against a certain location to the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario if they so choose to listen. But with that, I think we've made a good decision today in light of all the factors around. So thank you, Council. And thank you to the team here for years of work. Shane, thank you for all your work on this file. Item B. We got a long way to go here. Item B. Comments on Bill 66, Restoring Ontario's Competitiveness Act 2018. Report prepared by Michelle Lee. And Michelle, I have it, you're doing a presentation. Are you doing a presentation?
I'm going to make very few comments.
Make some comments. We'll hear some comments. Thank you. Go ahead, Michelle.
Thank you, Mayor Jaworski and Council. I just wanted to highlight a few very brief points. I'm not going to reiterate the report to you today. What I wanted to highlight was that Bill 66 was released for comment on December 6th, so we actually had a very short turnaround time. And the release didn't follow any kind of consultation with municipalities, so it did come as a surprise to us. And our municipality's first opportunity to comment to the province on this issue will be January 20th. So I just wanted to highlight that point. I also wanted to highlight that a regulation under the bill has yet to be released, and that will contain a number of details that we don't have at this point. So the comments in the report are really comments on what is available to comment on, and there are still quite a few unknowns. And then last of all, and I think this is fairly clear in the staff report, is that staff do have some significant concerns about the prospect of Schedule 10 in Bill 66. And I did want to point out that the staff report doesn't touch on any of the other schedules in the bill, just Schedule 10, which relates to the Planning Act.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lee. With that, any questions of staff before we get to two delegates? Seeing none, I will call up Mr. Kevin Thomason, co-chair of the Grand River Environmental Network. Welcome, Kevin.
Honorable Mayor, members of Council, and guests. My name is Kevin Thomason, and I am the owner of 1115 Cedar Grove Road, Waterloo. And I'm presenting today in my capacity as Vice Chair of the Grand River Environmental Network. Even more importantly, though, today, I'm speaking on behalf of a broad group of dozens of community, environmental, agricultural, health, and faith-based organizations who are extremely concerned about Bill 66 and who are collaboratively working together in an unprecedented manner. You'll see just some of our group logos on the screen before you, and many group members are giving up their afternoon to be in the audience here today. I would like to start by thanking the City of Waterloo staff for their excellent report and the many serious concerns they raise about Bill 66. We totally agree and hope this Council will unanimously approve this staff report and send a very strong resolution to the province. Since the surprise announcement of Bill 66 in December, there has been considerable concern in the community about its intent, its approach, and almost every aspect of this broad, sweeping omnibus bill that creates new municipal powers to override provincial land use laws. Our concern is growing daily as more implications and potential impacts are realized, and it becomes increasingly apparent just how poorly construed and written this bill is. Bill 66 will allow local lower-tier municipalities to create new open-for-business bylaws that create exemptions that override the laws that protect our water, agriculture, and community development plans. This could include exemptions to important regulations such as the Clean Water Act, brought in after the Walkerton disaster, in which thousands were sickened, many permanently, and 7 people died. The Greenbelt Act, which our Premier had committed to not opening up, the Great Lakes Protection Act, the Places to Grow Act, the Planning Act, and many other important protections that we count on daily for our high quality of life here in Ontario. According to the province, the rationale for the bill is to reduce red tape and create jobs. Unfortunately, the bar is set far too low. In order to qualify for exemptions, a new development in our municipalities would need to only create 50 jobs. Although at no point is it defined if these are full-time jobs, part-time jobs, construction jobs, or what would even happen if the development didn't employ 50 people 2 years from now. We all know that planning should happen in a broad, coordinated manner that maximizes the efficient use of infrastructure and public resources. The idea of random exemptions created with the specific purpose of allowing rapid development anywhere, haphazardly, overriding key regulations and important protections is absurd. One of the biggest strengths of Waterloo has been our strong collaborative official plans that focus most of our urban growth in our 3 largest cities and commits to keeping our rural townships rural. We've avoided so much of the tremendously destructive land speculation that plagues other GTA area regions and leaves countless farms derelict and awaiting development. Instead, our farms in Waterloo region are some of the most productive and highest yielding in Canada. It is long-term planning certainty that is so important to any farmer or business contemplating investment in their operation, planning the upkeep of their current facilities, or hoping to pass things along to the next generation. The potential for Bill 66 to shatter good long-term planning and cause a land speculation gold rush by allowing random exemptions for developments to be built anywhere, regardless of the consequences or ultimate costs, is considerable. This excellent staff report cites infrastructure and servicing implications, potential abuse by pre-zoning areas outside settlement areas, both as a means of expanding municipal boundaries and circumventing official plans, existing policies, and good planning practices. There are also many other issues haphazard exemptions handed out in isolation by any municipality could cause. If we are going to better manage rapid growth in the years ahead, we need stronger and better coordinated planning, not less. We can't have a patchwork quilt of municipalities randomly handing out exemptions to anyone coming forward, creating a myriad of issues, not only in their own communities, but also creating problems downstream and even in adjacent communities still trying to follow good planning practices. If the idea of weakening environmental rules that protect our water, farmland, and natural areas simply so corporation can build a new factory anywhere desired and profit from the destruction of a pristine area that never anticipated development isn't troubling enough, it gets worse, as there doesn't have to be any public consultation or even public notice provided under Bill 66. The fact that a local municipality could approve an open for business bylaw with no public notice, no public communications or notice to impacted area residents, with no public comment period, nor any public meetings is extremely troubling. And in our democratic country, it is one of the things about Bill 66 that is most concerning to so many of our community groups. There doesn't even have to be any notice provided to upper tier municipalities, such as the Regional Waterloo, or agencies such as the GRCA, even when they are impacted or have interests in the matter. Bill 66 bypasses all roles and government involvement of our regional government and our regional official plan that we count on for so many water and environmental protections. In fact, Bill 66 exempts developers from your official plan too, in addition to so many provincial acts like the Clean Water Act. Our regional government, the GRCA, and other organizations have been an integral part of the success of our community and play a very important role. Future success requires all levels of government to work together collaboratively, not to be completely excluded. Yet, it gets even worse. There is no recourse or opportunity to appeal a bad decision. If you have somehow even learned about it, as an open for business bylaw created under Bill 66 cannot be appealed to the OMB or the new LPAT, by citizens or even municipalities. Thus, the only way you might learn that an industrial factory has just been approved for the property next door or an adjacent municipality is when the bulldozers show up to start construction, and even then there would be nothing that you could do because there's no recourse or ability to appeal. How a provincial government can remove all public involvement, consultation, and recourse is extremely troubling, particularly in decisions overturning such important regulations and long-term planning. There is a general feeling that the entire premise of Bill 66 is a red herring. There is no current shortage of employment lands. In fact, many municipalities are reporting surplus of employment lands, sometimes decades worth of lands already designated, and instead are seeking to convert surplus employment lands to residential, retail, and other uses. Our economy is strong. Unemployment is at a 40-year low. Business growth is booming, and we don't need to be compromising our vital protections to attract business. Ontario is one of the strongest economies in Canada. Canada is one of the best performing G20 countries, and we are leading the world. Ontario cities, along with other cities in Scandinavia and Australia, are consistently ranked in the top 10 places in the world to live. I suspect frequently because of our good planning and regulations, not because we offer exemptions to certain businesses to them. This staff report accurately questions even the need for a new planning tool in Bill 66, when ministerial zoning orders and other similar provisions already exist. The City of Waterloo is a leader in smart growth and long-term planning. With an environment first motto, the city has led the creation of the ESLs, the countryside line, the protected countryside, rapid transit, source water protection, and so many other leading initiatives. We don't need exemptions to existing rules to attract business. Let's continue to attract business because of our dynamic urban areas, thriving countryside, and a high quality of life for everyone in our region. We urge you to approve the staff report that cites so many concerns with Bill 66. While this staff report provides comments, concerns, and recommendations on Bill 66, it does not specifically oppose Bill 66 like the region of Waterloo and so many other communities have. We need you to show strong leadership by passing a council resolution making it very clear to the public, media, and provincial government the City of Waterloo's strong opposition to Bill 66. Ideally, this motion would also affirm support for our successful long-term planning, like the city official plan, our local protection initiatives such as the countryside line, ESLs, and source water protection, as well as confirming a commitment to public consultation and the City of Waterloo's public engagement guidelines. Finally, we hope that the staff report, as well as any resolutions, would be delivered not only to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, but also directly to the Premier, Cabinet, all members of Provincial Parliament, area MPs, and the AMO, as well as every upper tier and lower tier municipality in Ontario. In conclusion, the City of Waterloo must continue its leadership and speak out loudly against Bill 66, alongside other communities such as Barrie, Hamilton, Oakville, Burlington, Aurora, and Guelph have been doing. We are extremely concerned about Bill 66 and its potential implications to create new speculative pressure on farmland, disrupt communities, and create more expensive sprawl, about the loss of natural heritage areas and essential water protections, about eroded local democracy and likely higher infrastructure costs and higher taxes. Bill 66 could damage and destroy so much that has been integral to our success and quality of life. Please do everything that you can. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Entertaining as always and very informative. Thanks for coming together as a group of multiple stakeholders to prepare one comprehensive presentation.
All right, you're welcome. It's been astounding how the community has come together. I haven't seen anything like this before.
Yeah, thank you. Questions for the delegate at this time? Councillor Bodley.
Kevin, thank you for that. Very much appreciated. I wonder if maybe you could elaborate on some of the specific concerns pertaining specifically to Waterloo Region or the City of Waterloo that Bill 66 is concerning of to the local environmental groups.
Yeah, and I think the good news is the region of Waterloo and our 7 municipalities, our 4 rural townships and our 3 cities have always actually been some of the best examples of good planning in the province. You know, we're leading with smart growth, we're leading on so many fronts, be it rapid transit or the protection of our countryside, source water, some of the things that I cited. And I think that that's where we have an important role to play provincially because there's so many other municipalities. So many times I'm in other places like Ajax this past weekend. I just met with Oakville Mayor Rob Burton, and I have people in those communities who keep saying, Kevin, you're so lucky to live in Waterloo. You know how you guys do X, Y, and Z, and we really want that here. And so I think there's a lot of places around the province that are looking to us for leadership and looking to us for support. And they see that we are out and ahead with our planning. The flip side of that is, though, it also means that we have the most to lose under this bill. It means that the province can override this and can trump this. If our official plans don't mean anything, if business can just come in, and we do know that there's municipalities in this province that I'm going to call it are more developer-led or perhaps not as rigorous or onerous when it comes to development applications. And we do know that there is a land speculation, land rush happening out there. The previous Liberal government turned down 742 requests for takeouts out of the Greenbelt. They turned down almost every single one they received. We know that under this bill, those 740 are likely to resurface and come racing back, particularly if they can get it an exemption. So it's been fabulous to see across Waterloo Region. Our other municipalities, we saw the region come out unanimously opposing this. Last week we saw in Wellesley a strong motion opposing it. Just a few few minutes ago, the City of Kitchener Council unanimously opposed Bill 66. So it's great to see these things happening. I should comment, though, we've just started this afternoon catching just a few minutes ago rumors that the provincial government is getting so concerned right now about the number of municipalities coming out against Bill 66 that they're actually contemplating recalling the legislature early on January 21st. That'll be 1 month early, simply to push Bill 66 through before more municipalities can issue resolutions against this. And that's even news probably to most of the Bill 66 supporters here in the room. That has literally just come in the last couple minutes from ahead of a couple of big environmental firms and one of the political parties. So it's disturbing to see the provincial government's approach on this. I think it's very important that this council and our region send a message to Queen's Park about what good planning looks like and how we do things here.
Okay, thank you, and thank you, Mr. Thomason. Okay,
excellent. Thank you.
One final delegate, Matt Thiessen, City of Waterloo Sustainability Advisory Committee. Welcome, Matt.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today on the Bill 66 and the IPPW report, staff report 2019-10. I'm here speaking on behalf of the City of Waterloo Sustainability Advisory Committee. And we'd like to thank staff as well for preparing a very comprehensive report on Bill 66 and its implications for the City of Waterloo and our surrounding areas. We would like to echo many of the same concerns and comments that have been put forward by staff and which have been elaborated here on today. As the Sustainability Committee, our mandate is to explore and to provide recommendations on issues that impact the social, economic, and environmental sustainability within the City of Waterloo. These three pillars, a robust economy, a thriving and healthy environment, and a strong networks of social support and community health are the foundation of a sustainable community. And SAC feels strongly that Bill 66, in particular the Schedule 10 provisions that allow municipalities to enact open for business bylaws for developments to bypass critical legislation are a fundamental threat to Waterloo's long-term sustainability and those of other communities around Ontario. So we would also echo in urging Council to approve the recommendations of the staff report and go further in committing to not enact such a bylaw and oppose without substantial modifications. The three main pieces we'd like to provide comment on, as have been discussed already, is the inadequate protection, the lack of consultation and due process, and the questioning of the very need of Bill 66. As has been discussed in the staff report, Bill 66 undermines legislation that is important for the protection of natural areas and our community's natural assets. Waterloo Region has a strong agricultural base, which is core to our economy, and provides a healthy natural environment for our community to thrive. Municipal and regional official plans and strategies reinforce the need for this environmental protection, which this bylaw, if passed in the future, would damage. It would directly circumvent the Clean Water Act, provincial policy statements, and other legislation that is critical to protecting our natural areas. It would also, in theory, be opening up areas for development that would need longer distance transportation in order to connect, which would further impact our city and community's ability to meet some of our other climate change and active transportation and sustainable transportation goals. The threats to groundwater are significant. We don't have to have a long memory to understand why this legislation was put in place. Communities across Ontario have in the past been on the front lines of water crises, particularly in Walkerton, and this is a very strong risk that this would be emergent again. We in Waterloo Region have a water supply that is primarily drawn from groundwater, and so we should be particularly concerned as opposed to some of the potential Greater Toronto Area municipalities which draw from Lake Ontario. So this is a direct concern for Waterloo Region. And some of the provisions, again, within the Clean Water Act legislation for storage and handling of fuel, fertilizers, and pesticides would all be potentially weakened or eliminated under such a bylaw. The second point is undermining due process, which again has been touched upon in the staff report and by our previous delegate. The limitations on public consultation, including comments from members of council on further development applications, is a huge red flag. We understand that long-term development or long development timelines can be costly, but removing all tools for community collaboration is a direct threat to democratic governance and should be opposed. Similarly, the ability for an open for business bylaw to bypass official plans and similar provincial policy creates an enormous democratic deficit. These plans are a result of significant public input and consultation and should be upheld. The ability for individual municipalities to enact these bylaws at the detriment to neighboring municipalities is also of significant concern. This represents extreme risks for municipalities and communities that have shared natural assets and a shared social and economic linkages, such as the Grand River watershed in the case of Waterloo Region and the City of Waterloo. I think this bill opens the beggar thy neighbor approach to attracting jobs, which most municipalities should stand against. And it ultimately strips council and your constituents of the ability to influence and manage growth appropriately over the long term. And finally, we would question the very need for this, as has been talked about already, of almost all, if not most, provisions within Bill Section 10 of Bill 66. The purpose, again, is to encourage job growth, but it provides almost no backing as to what that means or terms and conditions around that. Furthermore, we actually have a job vacancy rate in Ontario of 3.3%, as some of the most recent numbers illustrate. And that indicates that we have unfilled jobs where there are not enough candidates to meet needs. We suggest that there's a far more appropriate approach to long-term job creation and growth, and that is skill building and resilience for our workforce. Not stripping away legislation designed to protect communities and natural areas. This is not the type of economic growth that we should be trying to secure. We should be looking for employers and industry of the future that do not need to damage the natural environment and the jobs that they purport to provide. Other legislation that's in place does not have the goal of stopping development, but doing it responsibly. Streamlining agency comments and approaches could be improved, but it doesn't mean that the legislation should be ignored altogether. So we'd like to once again thank staff and council for considering this, and as SAC moves forward, we'd like to indicate our support for council as you continue to look through this in the future, and that we would encourage council to approve the staff recommendations, oppose Bill 66, and furthermore to collaborate with other communities in doing likewise. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt. Questions to the delegate? Councillor Bodley.
Just more of a comment, and through you, Mayor Jaworski. Sorry, I haven't been doing that all day. I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming here, and congratulations on your re-election as chair of the Sustainability Advisory Committee. And I look forward to working with you. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming forward and bringing forward your comments on such exceptionally short notice, only a few days after our first meeting. So thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks.
With that, we're done the delegations for this matter. Now open to council for motion or debate. Councillor Henry.
I'd like to move the following motion, which council has as its place, but is slightly different than the motion before us in our packet. One, that report IPPW 2019-010 be approved. Two, that the City of Waterloo not support the proposed amendments to the Planning Act as set out in Bill 66, Restoring Ontario's Competitiveness Act 2018, as it does not adequately protect drinking water resources and it does not require the comprehensive planning review and analysis or the meaningful community consultations residents and businesses expect from their local government. Three, that the City of Waterloo reaffirms it will continue to appropriately manage growth in a way that protects drinking water resources and sensitive natural areas, and that includes meaningful public consultation consistent with the policies of our community's official plan. And four, that report IPPW 2019-010 and the accompanying recommendations be forwarded to the province as the City of Waterloo's initial comments in response to the province's proposed Bill 66, Restoring Ontario's Competitiveness 2018. And I'll look for a seconder and then comments.
I see Councillor Freeman had her hand up first. We'll go with Councillor Freeman.
So
I see a lot of hands going up, so we'll go with
there are lots of comments that I know all of us want to have on this matter, and that they pale in volume in comparison to those that have come to us from members of the community on very short notice. I think in a community that relies on groundwater so heavily, the groundswell of support from various environmental organizations and other planning and community organizations coming together in unprecedented ways and with one unambiguous and clear voice is heartening for us to see, in that the work that we have done around this table for decades, that our staffs have done up and down the region, really matters. It matters to people in our community. It matters to us. and that the best way for us to be able to provide a strong future for our community, a vibrant economy, a diverse economy that works for everyone, is to start by providing a great place to live. And Waterloo is a great place to live because of how we've approached planning in this community. It's because of all of the work of our community members to engage in those decisions and make sure that what we build here works for all of us. It's why businesses start here. It's why businesses relocate here. It's why so many of them grow here. And that the best way for us to continue to be open for business is to be a community that plans comprehensively, engages with its community, and protects its natural resources for all the generations that will continue to enjoy Waterloo. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Henry. And for the record, I asked Linda to count them all up. We received 311 emails. 311 were against. 0 for. So anyway, let that be your guide. Further commentary on this matter. Councillor Bonagor.
I would just like to echo what Councillor Henry said. The fact that we were deluged with so many emails was extremely heartening. The community really cares deeply about our environment and about our future, and your council cares too. Our concern is not just what this bill would open up right now, but what it would leave open in the future. And I'm very heartened and glad to support this motion. We must vigorously defend our environmental protections and the transparency of our decision making. And I like to say that this motion will do that.
With that, I might be calling the question here. All those in favor? And none opposed. Go figure. Thank you very much, and thank you to the team for pulling this out. I think what I'm concerned about is we actually don't allow that on most nights, but since it's the afternoon, that's good. I think the key thing I'm concerned about is eventually if there's 2 frames of reference for planning that at one point in the near future could be in the hands of the municipality, but is there a point in the future where it might be in the hands of the developer saying, why didn't you choose that second path of moving forward with the 50 jobs that I'm going to create? So anyway, thank you all very much. We have a lot more work to do, so I'll let you, I think most people want to be on their way. You can watch later on YouTube. Do you want to take should we take a 5-minute break? Or what do you want? Okay, 5-minute break, please. Yeah, there you go. Next one's probably better. All right. Yeah, yes. It's so. Sorry. To keep mine. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, or angle over, angle back. This one.
That one?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.